Greetings, pilgrims. I see you're traveling through town. Please sit by the fire and let's have a nice chat. We're working on our new catchphrase. Anyway, yeah, so Squid Game. There goes a series that has had an unbelievable impact in the popular imagination recently. And it's not the first time that a work of art from Asia has taken the world by storm, eh? It's not like yours truly has made a video about this or anything like that. But yeah, it's a very engaging show, isn't it? It's very easy to get caught up in the drama, the violence, the characters, the intrigue. But why was it so successful? Could there maybe be another factor? Let's start by investigating the characters. By the way, I just wanted to say, there will be spoilers and mispronunciations on some of these names. I'm already apologizing in advance, but I will do my best. So, Oh Il-nam is an interesting character. He's an elderly gentleman who has a brain tumor, and he is the oldest player among this nefarious game. He's also the first one to want to play the game. And as the story progresses, he reveals to be kind of like that trope of the underestimated old man who has more experience than anyone else and ends up outshining a lot of the younger folks. But of course, as the story concludes, he reveals to be another trope of the hidden monster, the hidden villain, where this gentleman is revealed to be the bad guy of the whole story. But so far, none of this is new, right? The Oh Il-nam character is very similar to the old guy in Saw, if you think about it. You know, the old guy who thinks he's superior to all the young folks, and he thinks he has the authority to mess with other people's lives because of his life experience or whatever. But let's be fair here. And this is where the whole thing, I think, reveals itself. At first, the players of the game don't know what they're getting into, but in the moment where the true deadly nature of the game is revealed, and then they willingly take part in it, those characters, our main characters, they cease to be innocent. They start from being innocent people who are duped into a nefarious system to being accomplices of that system, because they are taking part of a game which they know will kill others, but they do it anyway for money. Are they driven by greed? Are they driven by desperation? Does desperation justify them essentially killing their fellow human beings? There's this whole discussion, but I think there's a deeper one behind all this. The fact is that even though these main characters, the players, are risking their own lives, possibly collaborating in their own destruction, that doesn't change the fact that they are also collaborating with the destruction of others. And this is precisely what the minds behind this game are after. This annual event thing, the shadow elites that arrange this whole thing, what they want to do is prove to themselves that all people are selfish, treacherous, malicious, even if they're poor, even if they're in conditions that are terrible. This way, they can feel themselves less guilty for having cheated or hurt others while they created their own fortunes. Because basically they are recreating a scenario while these main characters are forced to do horrible acts to each other for money. And when these nefarious elites see this, they can then feel vindicated in their own life choices, in their own path, as they built their own vast, wealthy empires. Now, even this is not really that new. Bad guys with a god complex who feel that they can mess with the lives of others is par for the course when it comes to fiction. But the apparent meta-commentary in Squid Game, I think, is unique to it. To explain what I mean, I have to go into transportation theory. So, transportation theory is a theory in psychology where people actually have their minds, their intentions, their attitudes changed when they enter a story, when they form an empathetic link with the characters, and then their attitudes and their mindset tends to change to reflect the reality of that story. You also have the so-called sleeper effect, which is the lingering effects of the story's persuasion in a person after the story is experienced. So basically, the story has an effect in their minds and their attitudes. A story can change a person's mind, is what I'm saying. And that's what the sleeper effect kind of is. It's the lingering persuasive effect of the story. And different stories with different outcomes can affect you differently. Stories that focus too much on the negative aspects of humanity and on terrible acts can lead one to lose one's faith in humanity. And you have the opposite. Contact with good and positive stories can lead you to have more faith in morality and have an elevated sense of morality. And this can happen whether the stories are fictitious or not. It's the effect of the narrative itself which causes this, apparently. And this is relevant to Oh Il-nam, because here is a man who lost his faith in humanity, and he created an entire system to justify his lack of faith in humanity. He plays the same story of human beings will betray each other for money over and over again, and that way he can be like the Joker. I'm not a monster, I'm just ahead of the curve. And I think this is what he's selling to his other monstrous rich people in the show. Now, have you guys ever seen a simple YouTube video showing an act of charity? Any simple act of kindness? Like a crying child being comforted, or a hungry animal being fed by a kind person? When you witness things like this, a quantity of dopamine is released into your organism and you feel better. With the right stimulus, we can feel good and we can be encouraged to perpetuate those acts. And of course, the same can occur with witnessing evil actions that can shake your faith in goodness in the world. These evil millionaires, they insulate themselves into this mindset, which allows them to be as treacherous and evil as they want to be, because they make themselves witness human beings committing horrible acts. That's why in Squid Game, the characters have to willingly participate in the game, because then they lose their innocence, and the evil audience of millionaires can then feel better about themselves. They can sleep soundly at night, knowing that everyone is just as evil as they are. Everyone will betray another person for money, right? They train themselves to continuously give up on life, on goodness, to the point where they justify treating others as perpetually unworthy, just as they have become unworthy. This means that what we need is to expose ourselves to positive stories. Stories that can inspire heroism, courage, selflessness, etc. We have to constantly remind ourselves that there is good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it is worth fighting for. It appears to be a psychological fact that we do need to continuously expose ourselves to stories about individuals or communities who learn how to overcome their troubles, the evils, through acts of heroism. The psychologist Carl Aquino explains that people with a habit of reading wholesome stories have a tendency of being elevated morally by the stories. By reading about compassion, they can then be inspired to be compassionate, which leads us to Squid Game itself, which is what this whole diatribe of mine is bringing us to. Does Squid Game itself perpetuate the very thing that it's criticizing? Does the portrayal of the blood-splattering violence, the evil acts continuously done, the lack of any real hero in the narrative, does that make Squid Game affect us negatively, just as the actual death game in the show continuously affect all the characters in the show negatively? And my answer is hopefully not, as we see in the ending that the main character, Seong Ji-hoon, chooses to not live the rest of his days enjoying his prize money earned by the blood of others, but he chooses to face the evil that has destroyed him and so many others. And I think this is what justifies the entire show. Acts of brutality being depicted is not that bad if the story is about rising above such things and is not a glorification of the evil itself. And I think that's what Squid Game promises to be, which is why the next season is where the real story starts, I think, hopefully. Because in the end, one of the best ways to live our lives is to try to not be affected by the cruel situations we witness or experience. Those evil moments that make us question the good in the world and might make us lose faith in life itself. It is better for us to make ourselves the hero of our own stories and maybe the stories of others, so that even though others can perpetuate cruelty and inspire others to do the same, we at least can be the inspirational force for compassion for other people. Alright guys, with all this being said, I have to be real with you guys. I haven't watched Squid Game. What? This isn't my script. This script that I just read was written by my friend. Let's call him Peregrino, and he will start the Brazilian version of the channel. And if you are one of the Brazilian members of the audience and you wanted a Portuguese version of what we're doing, you don't have long to wait, because my friend will start a Brazilian version, a Portuguese speaking version of the channel. So stick around for that if you're so inclined. Thank you all for listening to my ramblings. Have a good day, my friends.